From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, people. So nice to have you here. My name is Sven Erlandson. I am the host of the Badass Counseling Show podcast, and it's great to have you joining us. We are taping a live lightning round of the Badass Counseling Show. This is where I take listener questions. We are live right now on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube. Whether you are tuning in from Daytona, Florida, or Cape Town, South Africa, or Warragamba, Australia, it's just so terrific to have you here. I'm joined in studio by my producers, KC over in the booth, and Rob the Rocket sitting next to me. Hello, Rob.
Good day, Sven. How are we doing today?
I'm lovely. Thank you very much.
Cowabunga.
A Warragamba. It's true, folks. We had someone check in from Warragamba. So we're going to just kick it right off here. I got a couple of quick questions being fired at me. Got tons of questions being fired at me. First one is from Becky over on Facebook. She asked the question. She starts by saying, I bought your book. Love it. Well, thank you. How do you know if you are healed is the question. I feel I'm healed. My boyfriend says otherwise. He just tells me to keep doing the work. What am I doing wrong? Okay, I love this sequence of questions so much. Basically, Becky's been doing the work. She feels like she's healed or healing, and the boyfriend is saying, no, you're not healed. Keep doing the work. First of all, really, he gets to tell you whether or not you're healed? Because that sounds a little bit possibly manipulative. Now, maybe he has a good spirit and he's not. And he's just saying, no, honey, there's more there. But let me tell you this. The goal of healing is that you're trusting your own inner voice, that you have that relationship, that you know yourself and the aliveness that comes with it, and you become basically a different person. So on one hand, he's right insofar as you are still allowing his voice to override your voice. You said, I feel I'm healed. My boyfriend says otherwise, and he just keeps telling me to do the work. What am I doing wrong? So you're basically assuming if your boyfriend says it, you must be doing something wrong. You basically are saying, if my boyfriend says it, even though I feel like I'm healed or healing, if he says it, well, shit, it must be true then. Well, there's the problem. You're trusting someone else's voice over your own, which tells me you at least have a little bit more healing to do till you get to the point where you no longer trust your boyfriend's voice over your own when it comes to your own healing. I mean, if your boyfriend knows a lot about, arranging flowers, if he's a flower arranging expert, or if he knows a lot about transmissions on cars, and then he tells you, honey, you kind of got to get this transmission replaced. If he knows more about you on transmissions, great. Yeah, it makes sense. Trust him. Or if he knows more about arranging flowers, which I actually know a lot about. I grew up arranging flowers. Family friend was the plant lady for WCCO. I took classes on arranging flowers. I love flowers, love flower gardens. My parents, dad, World War II guy. Tried to sneak into World War II when he was 17, but he loved his flower gardens. So what's my point? My point is, if someone knows more about something than you on something, yeah, listen to him. If someone doesn't, probably not the best decision to listen to him, right? And so you're listening to him on something he couldn't possibly know. He can offer, well, what about this? What about this? But in the end, he can't know if you're healed. Only you can know. And what I'm saying is, if you're still listening to him and it's overriding your voice on something he couldn't possibly have a more definitive understanding of than you do if you've been doing the healing work, then you still got some more healing work to do until you can trust your voice and not back down. When he says, well, I think you need to, and then you say, listen, honey, this is my life. This is my healing work. Back off. All right, next question is right here. Kansas says, over on TikTok, he betrayed me with his phone, but won't let me check it to ease my anxiety. Yeah. First of all, my question will be, well, how do you know he betrayed you with his phone if you can't check his phone? So that's more of a hypothetical question. I'm guessing there's evidence for that. But anytime you have a suspicion and somebody won't let you check the phone, it's just like, that's kind of an admission of guilt there. Now, if a person, let's say I'm in a relationship and I'm constantly peppering my girlfriend with, well, let me check your phone now. Well, let me check your phone now. Well, let me check your phone now. Then in all likelihood, it's more about me than it's about them, right? It's about my own neurosis. So the question you have to get straight inside of yourself, Kansas, and only you can answer this, is this about you or is this about him? In other words, did you come into this relationship with a lot of anxieties and fears, and that you're wanting to check his phone is an outgrowth of your own anxieties and fears, from the past that have nothing to do with him? Well, your question sort of says, no, it's not about that. You flat out state, he betrayed me with his phone. In other words, you're stating it definitively. So I'm going to accept that as fact. If you are stating it as fact, I'm going to accept it as fact. If he cheated on you with his phone and him not wanting to show you his phone, of course he doesn't want to show you his phone. Obviously, he doesn't want to show you his phone. He doesn't want you to see it. But here's the real problem, Kansas. And the problem is you're stating as fact that he betrayed me with his phone. And so then I got to ask the question, why are you still with him? Now, you can choose to stay with the cheater, but why do you need evidence? Why do you need to see his phone? If you are stating it definitively, you didn't say, I think he might have cheated with his phone. You say he did. That means you know definitively. So then why do you even need the phone? Which the usual response is, well, I want to be able to prove it and show him. Why do you need to prove it and show him? Why do you need his confirmation of what you are stating as fact? Is your own voice not enough for you? Do you not trust your own voice? And if you knew definitively as fact and could show him the phone, then would you leave? Or is it that you want him to admit it? Well, obviously he's not going to admit it because he's not going to show you the fucking phone. So that seems you're in a spot where you know that he cheated on you and he's not admitting it. Tits in a ringer there. So what are you going to do? You claim to know that he cheated and you say he cheated. You didn't say, I think he did. You say he cheated. That means you know. And so you're with someone who's cheating and who is lying about it by not showing you his phone to prove otherwise. I'm assuming he's not admitting it because if he were admitting it, he'd likely show you the phone. So you've got somebody who both cheated and is lying to you and you're choosing to stay. Now I got to wonder about your judgment. And you can do what you want. It's your life. You want to stay with somebody who cheats and lies to you? Fuck, do it. What the fuck do I care? It's your life. There's nothing wrong with that. But I get to ask the question, why the hell would you want to stay with someone who both lies to you and cheats on you? Why? What is it that's going on in you that you think this is all you deserve? Or I got to have this one. He's so good. He's so close. If he would just this, then he'd be better. Then I'd really want to be with him. But he's not doing that. He's not showing you his phone. He's not admitting his lie. Right? So you're choosing to stay with someone who both cheats and lies. So if he does it again later, you kind of got to say, shit, I knew it. And that jackass on the Badass Counseling Show told me. All right? Or if he lies to you again later, and see if you allow someone to lie to you once and not own it, you are saying it's okay. You are giving them a free fucking pass. And in all likelihood, once they know they can get away with it, they're going to do it again. Whether it's the cheating or the lying, they're going to do it again. You are fundamentally saying, I don't have a boundary on this regarding cheating or lying. So of course he's going to fucking lie again. Guaranteed. Rob?
I had a guy working for me in a very high pressure office job, small group, and his wife would literally call him 10 or 12 times a day, interrupting meetings, etc. And I asked him, could that please be toned down? It was getting in the way. He refused to do it, and she refused to stop calling. Who's got the problem there besides me?
No, you don't have the problem. He has the problem because you just fire his fucking ass.
They got divorced ultimately.
He fired her ass. All right. Here we go. This is a good one. Branda says, I have a failure to launch, son, and I know it's my fault, and I don't know how to fix it. I hear you. You don't state a question, but it's sort of implicit. Failure to launch, for those folks that don't know, is a late. It's a phrase that's come about of late, though the phenomenon itself is not new. That, gee, my kid is in his 20s, or my daughter's in her 30s, and she's still living under our roof, or that sort of thing. And they failure to launch. Maybe they just don't have any motivation. Maybe they don't want to hold a job. Maybe they don't work hard. Maybe they're staying here and interacting. And this kid is sucking off my tit, and I want him to get the hell out and start his own goddamn life. Just for the record, folks, just for the record, in a whole lot of cultures around the world, even in America, over the millennia, or over the centuries, actually, it would be in America, it was traditional for the adult child to stay home. In fact, in some, it would be weird for the adult male to leave if he wasn't married, because the expectation was that he would be there and take care of his mother and his father and so on and so forth. So this notion of failure to launch, like it's some odd phenomenon, while it is somewhat different from some parts of American history, it is somewhat understandable. Furthermore, it's fucking expensive to live out there nowadays. But the bottom line is, to your point, Branda, I have a failure to launch, son, and I know it's my fault, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm going to make a recommendation to you, Branda. Go on to my feed. You're coming through here. You posted this question on Facebook, so it's harder on Facebook to scroll back through on someone's feed. But go to my feed on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok and scroll back to December 24th or 25th. I think it was the 24th. So last Christmas of 2023. And I posted a video then. It was actually a repost that I had put up. a year prior, and I put it up once or twice a year, and I'm sitting outside in the snow, and I've got like a bomber jacket on, and the title is something like 7 Things You Can Do to Help Your Adult Child Heal. And this is for the parent this is not for the parent who is convinced the child is the problem, the adult child is the problem. If that's your thinking, I'm not the guy. All right? Because anybody who won't concede their own fault in a situation is not someone I can help or have much interest in helping. You've got to see your own part of the equation. And Brenda openly admits it. So this video is for you to help your child heal. Because remember, the goal is not primarily to restore the relationship between you and your child. If there has been a breach, the goal is to help your child heal. Use that video, the 7 things you can help your child do. And that's December 24th or 25th from 2023. Next question. Rob, you got one?
Yes, I do. Genevieve on YouTube says, my partner is doing the work you recommend, but he needs my support. How do I recharge? I'm exhausted and need support that he can't give. I have nothing left for me, but I need to keep his confidentiality.
Yeah, 2 things. One, this is something I see where in a lot of marriages, in a lot of relationships, where one person is taking on the emotional baggage and weight of another person. Basically, one of the people is using the other person as a therapist. Now, in some relationships, that works. To a large degree, I have that in my relationship with my girlfriend because if a guy's a really good auto mechanic, all right, I mean like really fucking good, and his wife is, always bringing home, her car, and can you fix this? Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course. And he fixed it and whatever, and it's no big deal because he knows how to fix fucking cars. If my girlfriend came home and said, Sven, the fucking clutch is, fucking tweaking on me, and I think one of the pistons is misfiring, I'd say something like, wow, sounds like cocktail hour for me. I wouldn't know my ass from my elbow, and it would be ridiculous for me to go in there and attempt to do anything. It's just like idiot alert, And so it's that way, but when it comes to healing or counseling someone, for me, it's just like, do that shit in my sleep, and I'm happy to do it. I'm good at it, and I'm happy to take the rocks out of someone else's bag, even if I didn't put them there. Those rocks that are weighing them down, I'm happy to take those because I've got a lovely rock garden out back. All right, those rocks, I don't feel those rocks, but for a lot of people, taking on the weight of someone else, as you are doing, taking on the weight of someone else is just heavy, and it's weighing you down. Okay, so here's the thing for you, and that will kill a relationship. That is a sure way to kill a relationship when one person thinks that the other person exists to basically be my therapist, or that I need you to always affirm me. I need you to be like my mommy. I didn't get enough praise from my mommy, so I need you to always tell me I'm doing a good job. I need more praise. And it's like, whoa. No, dude, no. Or no, miss. No. Yes, your spouse, you want praise and love from your spouse. But if I'm always going to the well to this person to confirm my worth, I have some fucking work to do. All right? But you're not talking about that. You're talking about your boyfriend, husband is dumping all this shit on you. You have to draw a fucking boundary or that shit will kill you. And if it kills you, it's going to kill the fucking relationship. It's going to eat away at the relationship just as the same way it's eating away at you. You said, I have to maintain confidentiality. So you feel like there's no one you can tell. Then get a fucking therapist, because any therapist will have a confidentiality agreement. And the therapist gains nothing by sharing your story. In fact, the therapist could lose their fucking practice if they shared your fucking stories. Apart from breaking the law and, going to jail, or threatening violence, your therapist has to. They're not going to threaten their livelihood just to tell your fucking stories. You have to take care of you. And you have to do it in 2 ways. You do what you want. I mean, you can, or not see a therapist, but then you got to be engaged in what I'm always talking about. You got to be engaged in journaling. You got to be flushing out all your shit, man. All right, so either you can do it as self-help and be active and deliberate about flushing it out, or you can go see a therapist or a clergy person. That would be my recommendation. But the other piece you have to do is you have to draw boundaries with your boyfriend, with your lover. It's great that he's doing work on himself, but he has to find other avenues. If he's dumping it all on you, why doesn't he get a fucking therapist? And it is okay, people. There is nothing wrong with saying to another human being, I can't handle this. I love you. I want to be there for you, and I can handle it in small doses, but I'm not equipped to handle this. You cannot be someone else's therapist if you cannot be someone else's therapist. I cannot be my girlfriend's car mechanic. And it would be just fucking stupid for me to try. And I would get under that hood and I would stress the fuck out immediately. I'd be looking at the instruction manual and it's just dumb. It's a bad idea. I know you love your boyfriend. I know you love your husband, want to help him, but this is not your thing. And if you don't have the courage to set up the boundaries, it's going to suck the fucking life out of you even more, because this isn't going to solve itself. This problem doesn't just go away. You're at the point now where you're feeling like it's already bogging you down. Do you think this is going to get any less? No, it's going to get greater, because he's going to bog you down with more shit, which means you have to have the courage to lovingly say to him, sweetheart, I love you, but I can't do this. I need you to get someone else. I need you to get a professional to go to this stuff with. And then you need to be about the business of flushing your stuff out, either with a therapist or in your own journaling and writing letters you don't send, etc. Next question. Monica asked really the great follow-up question to that, even though Monica is on a totally different feed and doesn't say what her issues are, and that's fine. Monica says, how do I manage the strength to set and keep boundaries in my life? How do I manage the strength to set and keep boundaries in my life? Monica, that's a great question, and you are so not alone with that question. A lot of people wrestle with this. And what's key, it's not about finding the strength. I know what you think it is, finding the strength to maintain your boundaries. It's not about finding the strength. It's about removing the obstacles that are keeping you from maintaining that boundary. You have the strength innately, the strength in you to hold a boundary or to go after your dreams or to say no to someone. The strength to do that is already in you. It's not something you have to go find or gin up somehow. No, it's already in you. What's keeping you from doing it is all the stuff that's packed on top of it. The bullshit somewhere in you, Monica, I guarantee somewhere in you, you have a belief that is blocking you from expressing your strength, that causes you to feel guilty when you say no, that makes you feel like a bad person if you say no, that causes you to fear your person, your lover, your child, your spouse, your worker, whoever it is you're having to draw a boundary with, fearing that they won't like you, fearing that they'll reject you, fearing that they'll leave you and you'll be alone. You have fears operating here that are stopping you from putting up the boundary. It's not about finding strength. It's about getting rid of the things that are chaining down, trapping your strength. And it's always fears. It's always bullshit beliefs that have been pressed into the wet cement of your soul. That's what's keeping you from having the strength to express your boundaries. You go in, you remove those, boundaries will be nothing because you'll honor yourself. And somewhere in you, you don't honor yourself because you were conditioned to not honor yourself. Parenthetically, people, this is precisely why I wrote the book. There's a hole in my love cup. It exists to walk you through the process of healing yourself so that boundaries, so that following your own dreams and your own paths, so that not listening to fears, so that all those things can come to pass. We got the English and the Spanish version. It's on audiobook, et cetera, at badasscounseling.com. Next question. We're on a roll here, people. I love it. Love it. Love it. Let's go. One more on boundaries. Then I think we have exhausted the boundaries issue. Jill says, sister is paranoid and knows it. She won't respect my boundaries. Help. She won't respect my boundaries. And this, unfortunately, is where we get into having to kind of be a dick. If someone won't respect your boundaries, then you have to respect your boundaries. You have to love yourself so much that you insist and you do not back down. You have to love yourself so much that you begin to shut down lines of communication if someone does not respect your boundaries. Because the truth is, if you don't love yourself enough, if you don't stand up for yourself, someone will run over you. And why would they? Because there's no pain point. There's no incentive for your sister to stop, Jill. So you have to insist on your boundaries. And if that means, blocking her, or if that means not letting her in the house, or if it means, whatever. But I'm betting there's a price with that, isn't there, Jill? You've already thought about that. Well, shit, I can't block her because what would blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's what would the family say? What would she say? Maybe your mom is dead and your sister is, like your mom's voice ringing in your fucking head or whatever it is. But you've got to be willing to face the consequences if you protect yourself. But here's the thing. So you've been somewhere along the line conditioned to not protect yourself, to not stand up for your own needs and your own wants and your own feelings. And as a result, your sister is happy to fucking take advantage of that and run all over you. You have to stand up for yourself. And what makes standing up for yourself and setting boundaries so hard in life, folks, is that to set a boundary is fundamentally saying no. Now, where I live, there are stone walls in this part of the country, in New England and New York City tri-state area. There are stone walls on the edges of property. When the settlers first came, they had to get the stones out of the soil to make it arable, they can farm it, right? And so we have these stone walls between properties. And in my case, mine are like 3 feet high. Some homes have them where they're 6 feet high, but they're old and they're just beautiful as fuck, right? But that indicates a boundary. And the boundary says to my neighbors and to anyone, you can't come across here. Okay. Now with my neighbors, they can come anytime they want. I love them. Come on in. Beer's in the fridge. But a boundary is a no. No, I don't want you coming onto my property. Or no, I don't want to go serve on the PTA. No, you can't treat me that way. And we fear saying no. We fear putting up a boundary because a no is just as much a statement of who I am as the things I choose. The things I say no to, the things I don't choose, that's me revealing my real self to you. And the fear in revealing my real self, even in my no's, is that you won't like me for who I am. Or I know that if I say no to my sister, or if I say no to my best friend, I know exactly what they'll say. And I don't want to deal with that pushback. I always tell people the greatest fear in life is not fear of death. It's not the fear of the unknown. It's not the fear of failure. It's not the fear of destitution. No, you want to know what the biggest fear in life is in terms of having the power to hamstring someone's life and cause you to live a life completely different from what you really want to be living. Do you want to know what the biggest fear in life is? It's the fear of the known. And you're like, what the fuck is this jackass saying today? Fear of the known is this, that if you go after what you really want, or you do what you really want in this situation, or you say and express who you really are, I know exactly what my best friend will say, or I know exactly what my old man will say. If I put my truth out there, if I go after what I really want, I know exactly what my bitch wife will say, or I know exactly what that piece of shit husband of mine will say. I know exactly. And that is so scary that I'm just going to keep the real me inside. Thank you very much. And so we live in fear, and we live what I call a non-integrated life. That who I really am on the inside is very different from who I am on the outside. You know how on your pair of jeans or your pair of slacks, there's a seam, right? On the side, on the inside, there's a seam, and on the outside, there's a seam. The seam is connecting two pieces of fabric, right? If there's no seam, there's just one piece of fabric. If you are living an integrated life, there is no seam between your inner life and your outer life. It is seamless. But if you don't have the courage to put your authentic self out there because you're so afraid of what you fucking know what their responses are going to be. If you don't put your authentic self out there, you are trying to stitch together two pieces of fabric, your outer life and your inner life. And you're doing your best to keep those stitches tight and keep them true and keep it stitched together. But the bottom line is you were meant to lead a seamless life. You were meant to live an integrated life, but you're terrified. And your fear of them is what causes you that keeps you from being who you authentically are on the inside and in the outside. And that is where aliveness comes from, an integrated life. And you don't have that sense of aliveness because outside you're living someone else's version of what you should be. Much more to come right after this short break.
You've heard Sven talk a lot about his book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. And that's because Sven hears from his followers a lot about how much the book has helped them. If you're not sure how to handle the issues getting in the way of a better life, you're not alone. And you have a lot of choices. But thousands of readers will tell you that this is a great place to start, by yourself and at your own pace. So go to badasscounseling.com and order There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and you'll have Sven right there with you as you forge your best future. It's totally badass. So get started today.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back. We've got great questions coming in here. This is a live taping on social media, on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube of the Badass Counseling Show podcast. It is a lightning round wherein I take listener questions and do my best to help you on all things life, work, career, self, relationships, family, etc., etc., etc. All right. So I've got Toast with the absolute most asking this question on TikTok. That is their handle, folks. Some people are very creative. Was I wrong to expose my parents' behavior to my extended family? They agreed with me. What's fascinating here is that you are questioning a decision you made previously. So obviously the decision cannot be undone. Was I wrong to expose my parents' behavior to my extended family? They agreed with me. The extended family presumably agreed with me. You're either having guilt or your parents in all likelihood are upset that you did it. Obviously, you wouldn't be having guilt unless in all likelihood your parents are upset that you did it. But you made that decision in your past based on the information you had in front of you and what felt right to you at the time. Your extended family agreed with you, which was nice, but in the end, you're questioning your decision ex post facto, after the fact. And only you can decide. And if you and I were sitting having a beer right now, or just going, skipping rocks down at the creek, I'd ask you the question, simply put, did it feel right to you? Does it feel right? Did you know you had to do it? And you'd likely answer yes. Okay, then somebody else's voice is infecting your head. You have made a decision. You have considered all the options before. I'm guessing it was a big decision. If you're still thinking about it after the fact, it was a big decision about whether or not to tell your extended family about your parents. All right, so that took a lot of anguish and it took you a long time, and you waited heavily, and then you made your fucking decision. And then someone else is coming along after the fact and causing you to doubt your own decision. All right, causing you to doubt yourself. Worst thing you can do in life is doubt yourself when you know it's right. And in this case, you made the decision based on what you know is right. And it's really doesn't serve you. It doesn't help you to ask yourself whether or not you are wrong, unless someone's trying to make you feel like you are wrong. So I'm betting your parents are pissed at you and they're trying to blame you. Of course, you expose them. Of course, they're going to be fucking pissed at you. So my question would be, did it feel right? You're likely going to say yes. And then I would likely say, all right, so that's that. Let it go. You did your best. You did what you thought was right. And life goes on. And if your parents are pissed at you and they don't like you for it, well, you kind of knew that going in, and you got to learn to accept that, and you got to flush out all the pain that comes with having your parents not like you. All right, next question. Cheryl White over on Facebook asked the question, how do you let go and move on from 40 years? In a way, it's the same way you let go and move on after 2 years, except it's just a hell of a lot more, right, Cheryl? What's keeping you locked in is either A, you're still wanting the person back, or B, some other feelings of connection and loss, and or C, you're terrified of what's ahead, right? Or all three of those. But the bottom line is where this all starts, and it comes back to you got to start flushing out all of your feelings. I'm betting, let me tell you what happened with me very briefly. After my second divorce, I divorced my second wife, and I adored her. Such an amazing woman, just brilliant. I just, wow. And, but I had to, because we were oil and water and we could not resolve our issues despite therapy and so forth. And it'd be very easy for me to say, oh, it was all her. No, fuck that. It was both of us. And this was about 25 years ago, whatever, 25 years ago, whatever it was. And about a year after the fact, I loved her. I was the one that broke it off, but I was still missing her. And I was still grieving over the death of a relationship. And grieving is always necessary. But what I realized was keeping me from moving on in my life was not anger or rage. It was love. I had to learn how to let go of a good feeling. We always think of, I got to let go of this anger. I got to let go of this sadness. I got to work on flushing out all of this rage that I have. But there are times when we actually have to learn how to flush out and purge and let go of the good feelings, the happy feelings. Like love, like peace, like calm, because that love that I still had for her was causing me to have one foot in the past, one foot in the future. Sure, I wanted to move forward with my life, but my love was causing me to be stuck. It was keeping me from moving forward, so I had to flush that out. I'm willing to bet, pennies to dollars, that your love for your ex is what's keeping you there, and perhaps also still wanting that person back, and perhaps also feeling fear of what's ahead. I mean, come on, you're with somebody with 40 years, even if you guys met in fourth grade, cripes, you're still in your 50s. And as we get older, we think, no one's going to want me. And will it work out? Will I be alone forever? Those are all natural questions. 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, those are all normal questions. But you have to be about the business of journaling and flushing out, or talking with your therapist, your clergy person, or even your best friend if you got a really good listener for a best friend, but particularly in journaling and writing letters to your ex that you don't send. But the more you flush that out, the less those anxieties and fears and guilt will consume you, and love will consume you. Rob?
I can identify with that. And you've also answered on YouTube Rachel's question, who had a 15-year relationship and the same issue. Now I have one from R. Rebecca, which I guess is Rebecca split up with a little space in the middle.
Fair enough.
Can you talk a little bit about coercive control in romantic relationships? Specifically, do they know they're doing it? Also, how to breach the subject with them?
Boy. Coercive control. Coercion is force, right? So someone is controlling me using force. And you want me to talk about that in a relationship. Okay. I'm going to open by saying, I think we can all agree. I think we have a unanimous vote that force in a relationship, bad. Can we all agree on that? That someone forcing you and controlling you is bad enough, but controlling you with force, coercion, force. And there are many types of coercion, many types of force. Someone controlling you and using force to do it, bad. I'll be very honest with you. Anybody who thinks that's okay to do to you is not someone you want to be with. Now, the mere fact that someone is doing that to you, there is a matter of allowance. You are an adult. You see there is a problem here. You've identified the problem. You have actually named the problem. So you are not a fool. And you are choosing to stay with someone who is coercively controlling you. So this is now a choice on your part. And this isn't, I'm not saying you are causing this person to do it, but you're obviously allowing this person by staying. Cause and allowance are two different things. I'm not saying you're causing someone to coerce you or force you or abuse you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you are allowing it because you're aware of it and you're naming it. Okay, then I have to ask the question, why? Why, for the love of God, are you staying with someone who's using force and controlling you? All right, but that's not really your fucking question, is it? Rob, the question was ultimately, basically, what the fuck do I do?
Well, what do I do, and do they know they're even doing it?
Well,
part of that.
Well, that's a great question. And the implicit is what you're trying by wondering if they know they're doing it is, do they know they're hurting me? You're trying to understand them. You're looking at them, trying to understand them and why they're doing this and so on and so forth. You got your focus in the wrong place. This isn't awareness about them. You need awareness about you. And the awareness about you is that this hurts and this sucks. And why am I allowing someone to treat me this way? And why is this person doing it? But you're never going to get that fucking answer. And the mere fact of you ask, how do I bring it up? My God, someone's coercing you and controlling you and you're terrified to bring it up. You're living in so much fucking fear right now. And do they know it's bad? Well, I tell you what they do know. They know it works. They know it works. And let me ask you this. You know how we can discern? Here's a quick litmus test to answer your question. You want to know the answer to that question? All right, fine. I'll give you that one. I think it's the wrong question. I think the question you need to be asking is, are you aware of what's going on in you? And when you honor what's going on in you, quite apart from why someone is doing it. If someone's fucking punching me in the face, I really don't give two fucks what their reason is. I don't want it. Does not feel good. If someone is hurting my feelings, I don't care if it's deliberate or accidental, I'm going to say, stop hurting my feelings. Stop. And if you don't, I'm walking away. Okay. But here's the thing. You're asking, do they know that they're hurting you? My response is simply this. Do they treat every other person in their life the way they treat you? To which the answer is, of course not. Are they coercively controlling their boss or their customers? Are they coercively controlling their mother, their father, their siblings, their other friends? If the answer to that question is no, then you've just answered your own question. In other words, if they treat people differently from you, then they know that they are treating two people differently, which means they know how they are treating you. Go ahead, Rob.
She says, I'm not talking physical, more like an extreme form of pouting. For instance, I go out with friends and then he shuts down and the silent treatment ensues.
It's a drag, isn't it? It's a drag. I've been that guy before, where I'm fearful and, you don't want to be with me, but I'm also fearful you might meet somebody else. I'm fearful that some other guy might make you laugh, and I'm fearful. And how much fear drives relationships. But bottom line is it's a fucking drag, isn't it? And you are coerced by that. You are allowing his pouting and his nagging and his fucking, babyish bullshit. And I get where that's coming from. I've been that guy. I get he's fearful and he's sad and he's afraid. Why don't you want to be with me and all those things? I get it. And that's normal. So I shouldn't be quite so brutal in saying he's being a baby. But, anyway, but the point is, it's dragging you down, but let's be really honest then. Okay, you're allowing it to drag you down. You feel like you have to respond to him and, and do what he wants or whatever, rather than just saying, listen, I'm going to have time with my friends. I understand you're going through that, but you need to work on your feelings. And if he continues the behavior, then you've got to look at yourself here, my friend, and say, why am I staying in a relationship with someone who's just fucking dragging me down, who can't see the value in me spending time with the people I love too? My girlfriend talks about how, when she was 19, she was dating a guy And he didn't like it when she would spend time with her family. Well, she grew up in a big fucking Italian family in the Bronx. The notion of cutting a Bronx Italian from their family, it's just like, dude, what do you think the half-life of your existence in her life is if you want to keep selling that fucking message? What do you think the half-life of that fucking relationship is? It's like, pull head out of anus. It's like, no, Dumbo. It's just like, you're so fucking insecure. And I used to call this the beautiful spouse syndrome, but now I've expanded. It's something else. I haven't gotten a new name, but you got the guy who's got this really pretty girlfriend, let's say, really pretty, and he's just so into her and so forth, but he's so fucking insecure. And he so wants more love from her that what does he say? He starts saying things like, I don't like when you spend so much time with your girlfriends. I mean, dancing once a month, really? Do you really need to do that? I mean, haven't you outgrown that? And so she starts spending a little less time with her girlfriends because she wants to make him happy. And then she says, why do you get together with Ted, every 6 months? I mean, yes, I know you guys grew up on the same block and went to kindergarten together. And I know your parents were best friends. And I know you guys vacation in the Hamptons every year. And I know. But I mean, come on, you were a child. Why do you still see Ted every 6 months? Yes, I know he's basically been your best friend your whole life, but come on, get over it. And why do you spend so much time alone? Oh, you like to go, fucking do your fucking, a painting group that you're in and you like to paint. Why do you do that? And she wants to make him happy, right? So she starts doing less of the painting group and she starts doing less time with the family or less time with the friends, et cetera, et cetera. So what's he doing? Well, what Dumbo really fears, what this insecure person really fears, is that you might leave me. You might meet someone else. You're getting happy through other ways, that you're not, that you might get love from someone else and leave me, but B, any love or happiness you're sharing with someone else is love that's not coming to me. So out of terrific, huge insecurity, fundamentally fearing that you might leave me in the end and not meet my needs anymore, he starts cutting off all of her supplies of love or radically reducing them. Her wanting to make him happy does it. But what happens is what? She withers on the vine. Why? Because those were love sources for her. She was getting her needs to have love poured into her love cup through all these friendships, the old time friendship with Ted, her family, and her going out dancing with her girlfriends and her painting group and all this shit. Now those have dried up. So she's drying up inside and she's growing more and more depressed, more and more anxiety ridden, less and less joyful in this relationship. And eventually she realizes, I'm fucking miserable in this relationship. Why? Because he's like, no, you only need me and I only need you. But no one person can meet all of another person's love needs. So eventually, guess what she fucking does? Fuck this shit, I'm out. And she leaves. So he just created the very eventuality he feared most. Okay. Bottom line is, folks, is like if you got somebody who's dragging you the fuck down and trying to rob you of your love sources, you have to recognize that you need those love sources. You need those sources, those things in life that breathe life into you, the things that give you energy. And you need less of, and you want not need. You got to reduce the things that bleed your energy, bore you, numb you, suck the life out of you, things that you have to conjure up energy just to do. Those are not you. The things that give you energy are you. And I like when I'm talking about happiness and authentic self, I don't like to use the word happy because so often happy, people tinker with that up here in their head. Okay. Happiness is not ultimately derived from a head thing. It's derived from this question: what gives you energy? And this is why I love the book. It's an outdated book. I think it's out of print by now. The book is Living in the Light by Shakti Gawain. Shakti, the female version of Shiva, the Hindu goddess. And Gawain, of course, was one of the Knights of the Round Table. And so she was kind of a New Age writer. It's a tiny bit New Agey, but it was written back in the late 80s, early 90s. But if you can get past that language, if that's not your thing, the essence of the book is brilliant. That the path to authentic self is about following your energy. Listening to your own feeling, connecting with your own intuition comes by what is it that gives you energy and what is it that sucks your energy. And to reduce those things that bleed you, bore you, numb you, suck the life out of you, or that you have to conjure up energy to do, and to do more of those things that just naturally give you energy. I do this counseling shit with you guys because I love it. I love the work. When I'm done, I'm fucking amped the fuck up. Seriously, I counsel people for 6, 8, 10 hours a day. I do sessions with one client that are literally 6 or 7 or 8 hours. Then I'll take another one after that. Why? I love this shit. And at the end of the day, my girlfriend's like, whoa, did you do some coke today, Sven? It's like, no, I don't do drugs. I was just in session. I'm so amped up. Why? Because I love it. I was dating a woman who was a dancer in Broadway shows. And if the show started at 7:30 or 8, and the show's done by 10:30, get out of there, have some dinner and so forth, she couldn't unwind until about 2 a.m. She'd fall asleep at 2 a.m, sleep till, whatever, 9 a.m, whatever. Why? She was so amped up. Why? Because that gave her energy, this massive physical exertion of dance, professional dance at the very highest levels, and also entertaining a crowd, being this professional dancer in Broadway shows. For anyone else, it would be extreme taxation. For her, it was an extreme rush. It gave her energy. The way you're in your zone, living authentically, is that it's giving you energy. When I'm writing a book, I can write for literally 10, 12, 16 hours in a day after day after day. Why? Because I love the work. I love what I'm doing. So if you're in a relationship that is sucking the energy out of you, this is not the person.
Speaking of Broadway, I think it's a line in Hair where the mom says, do what you love, kids, just don't hurt anybody.
I like that.
Yeah, and there's, so many excellent paths to creating resentment in relationships. So let's be confident and let's be careful out there.
I like that. And in that same vein as the Hair quote, in my book, Badass Wisdom, I quote Harry S. Truman, which basically says the theory that Harry Truman, the great American president, ended World War II, buck stops here, that guy. Funny looking guy, bald guy. Baldies are always weird. Anyway, he says, I'm bald, people. I can make bald jokes. He said, I have found that the best parenting advice, is to let your children do what they want. Let them follow their own paths. That's Harry Truman. One smart motherfucker. All right. So we're going to take just a few more questions here. Fine, lovely human beings, you badasses. Flutterby asks the question, Sven, why were you in a deep depression, even with great parents and almost lifelong journaling? I'm curious. No, that's a great fucking question. My suicidal depression that I was in for about 12 years, give or take, grew out of, yes, I did. I had fantastic parents. But it grew out of a couple of things. And one of them was, one of the things that can happen in a large family, and it can happen in a family of only 2 people or 3 people, 1 child, whatever, is that there was, because my father, who I adore, honest man, he never had sin. I mean, he could talk too much and it's just like, oh my God, Dad, I love you so much. But I have heard that story about the farm during the Great Depression about 4,862 times, but no sin. He had no pride. He had no shame. He didn't hurt people. He was just a good man. Tried to sneak into World War II when he was 17. I mean, just a good fucking man. Decent, kind man. Farm country folk. Became a pastor. But the one problem with Dad was he never got his love cup filled growing up. He had good parents as well, but in terms of attention. Therefore, when you've got 6 kids sitting around a table with 2 parents, all those little kids are like little baby wrens in a nest, little baby robins. What does the baby robin do? They stick their mouth out and they're waiting for Mama Robin or Papa Robin to come in and stick a worm down their throat. That's how children are. What children are wanting is attention, positive attention. Well, when you've got 1 child, it's hard enough. 2, it's like, whoa. 3, even if you have a 2-parent home, you now have 3 kids all wanting attention, plus you each want attention from each other. All of a sudden, the attention tit is running dry. Well, imagine 6 kids, and you're competing with your father. See, the parent is supposed to be the source of attention. The parent is supposed to be walking around the table with a ewer, pouring love into the love cup of each of the children. All right? But in our case, we were competing with our father. And Dad, our parents taught us to listen well and give attention to each other, but every conversation ended with Dad telling long fucking stories. And I love my dad. But part of the reason I love my work, and I'd like to think I've gotten pretty good at it, is I know what it's like to be heard and I know what it's like to be not heard. I had a mom who was a great fucking listener and a dad who was just a horrible listener. Great man, good man, kind man, hardworking man, but horrible listener. And I know the immense frustration. And so then I'm going into adulthood, and my first wife divorced me, cut me off from my kids. And I was trying to get into ministry. I had already left the military and I was trying to get into ministry to be a pastor. And they were closing doors on me because they didn't like my personality, which was very intense from being from sports and military. I was too intense to be a pastor and all this shit. So I'm just eating shit from every direction. On top of the fact that my love cup did not have enough love in it in the form of attention. I always knew my father loved me, never in question. And my father, my entire life, never one time criticized me. Zero. But you couldn't get a fucking word in edgewise. I never felt heard by my father until he was in his 80s. Okay. And so what I was suffering from was a lack of attention, then being rejected by my wife, losing my kids. But it all was rooted in is that love cup didn't have enough in it to begin with. So when you ask that question, Flutterby, that's an excellent question. And I had two parents. One parent really, it fell on mom to try to pour love into the love of 7 people around a table, having to carry her husband when it came to the idea of attention and giving love. And dad could be very loving, don't get me wrong, but as far as listening, I just never felt heard, which is why for me in my book, there's a hole in my love cup. I talk about in one of the bonus tracks in the back of the book, I talk about the other love languages. We've all heard of the book, 5 Love Languages, and I add a couple more, and one of those is listening. It's not quality time. That is not words of affection. It's its own category, listening. We all desire to be heard, which is a form of being seen. And so then that compounded with then the things that were happening after that, Flutterby, who asked this question, led to me plunging into a deep suicidal depression. And I was journaling, but what I didn't have, I tried different therapists and none of them could give me a way out. They didn't know. People who actually know things about suicide, even suicide hotlines. My mother literally worked on a suicide hotline when I was growing up. And she taught me how to counsel people when I'm like 12, 13 years old. I have no idea why. She just did. And even when I'd reach out to suicide hotlines and therapists, none of them could fucking help me. None of them could take me deep and down into something that really healed, which is why I am very serious when I work with people with suicide, not just because I understand the gravity of it, because I've been there. And I know the fucking things they're wrestling with. And I know how frustrating it is to work with someone and talk with someone who claims to be a therapist and maybe good at a lot of things, but just doesn't understand it. Or is reading it out of a book sort of thing. Oh, it's depression. Oh, you should. That it's like wrong questions, wrong comments, and so forth. So that's why. And then I had to find my way out. And so in all my journaling and teaching myself to go deeper and deeper and reading roughly 1,000 books in all different fields, from theology to astronomy to spirituality to theology, because I was, getting my master's in theology at the time, and then subsequent to that. And I just began to create a pastiche, a mosaic, whatever other words might illustrate it well, but my own thing. I created my own way out and healed myself. And that was absolutely integral to the work I've done since then. I had to do that so that I could be able to heal more people. So that work that I did in that suicidal depression all those years is precisely all the stuff that I'm accessing. It's the backbone of my book. There's a hole in my love cup, all my work, all my counseling, and so forth. But yeah, I was in it. I mean, and in the thick of it, you're considering killing yourself multiple times a day. You're not just thinking about how I do it. Shit, you've already crossed that hurdle. For me, it was always razor blades. Always. It was just easy, roughly painless, and I knew it. I'd bought them a few times. But then as you're first going into a suicidal depression, you think about it, once every 6 months, and then maybe once every couple of months or once a week. And then it increases. And then as I was coming out of it, the frequency when I would think about suicide began to decrease and decrease and decrease. So in other words, more and more time was elapsing between those thoughts. And eventually, because of the work I was doing, and then I was a dog on a bone. Once I realized the shit that I was doing was working, I attacked it, fucking attacked in my self-work. And this is why I'm such a believer in self-work. And this is sort of, I think, where we're going to end it today. Hear me on this. This is why I'm such a believer in self-help. There are great therapists out there. There are great clergy out there. There are great social workers out there. There's a great wise old women who don't have a degree. There's those great uncles or whoever it might be. So there are great people out there, whether they're licensed or unlicensed, clergy or not clergy, shaman, priest, whatever, that can help you in so many ways in life. But a lot of times we can't get it. Or a lot of times we can't find that great person. I am a huge believer in self-help. All of my tools exist to help you do it yourself or to augment, to add to what you're doing with your therapist or your clergy person or what have you. You can heal yourselves, folks. You can. You can. I'm not talking about psychological diseases. I am not a psychologist. I have nothing to do with the medical field. What I am talking about is soul pain. Pain, the fears, the bullshit beliefs you've been taught about yourself. And I don't care what your fucking disease is. You get all of someone's pain out of them and everything changes. That any diseases they may have, any physical maladies they have are going to present differently. You take a 500-pound bag of rocks off of someone's back, of emotional pain, soul pain off of someone's back, and it's going to completely change how they interact in life, how they walk through the world, including their physical health. So what I'm saying is you can heal yourselves. I've created 1,000+ free videos here to help you heal. Rob and Casey and I, Rob puts in hours and hours and hours every week on this. He's retired. He doesn't get paid for this. He does this out of the goodness of his soul, that he realizes this shit is helping people. We're trying to help you guys heal yourselves. All right? We've got all these fucking tools here, and as well as the book. The books. There's a hole in my love cup being top of the list. Just walk your way through this book. It will step you through how to heal. There's Badass Wisdom. There's the audio book, the Spanish book. All of it is available on the website, badasscounseling.com. But folks, you can heal yourself. And it's not just the liberation from all that pain, but also what I'm taking you towards is aliveness. You don't just want normal. Normal's good. If you've been in pain your whole life, normal is good. But that's not good enough for me. I want to take you to aliveness, where your baseline is higher, where your lows aren't nearly as low, or if they come, you can handle them because you've already healed yourself of all this other shit, and where you're just not just happier, but you're energized for life again, spontaneous energy. You see more clearly, and your outlook on life is completely different. And yes, I absolutely and unequivocally believe and know from 30 years of counseling people and getting myself out of a 30-year or a 12-year suicidal depression, I believe and I know for a fact that you can have that aliveness, that you can heal. And it doesn't have to take forever. The deeper you go, the faster the transformation. On behalf of KC in the booth and Rob the Rocket next to me, I want to thank you all for tuning into the Badass Counseling Show. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.